Hi, it's Hugh Foster on the bass here. Before I get into today's lesson, don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell, all the usual stuff. And if you want to get a little more out of this, you can get PDFs and backing tracks for this and loads of other lessons on my Patreon. So this exercise covers a couple of main things. First of all, lots of 16th note syncopation. A student of mine wanted to work on this concept, so I thought I'd come up with an original lesson for it. Secondly, some spicy chord changes using non-diatonic harmony, and with that, a brief exploration of reharmonization. The chord sequence I wrote for this ended up having a little bit of a jazz fusion vibe. For me, it sounds a little like the Yellow Jackets. Using the main sequence as a jumping off point, I decided to go on a little reharm journey. I'll go into more detail on that later, but first of all, let's hear the main sequence. The first thing to mention here is the 16th note syncopation. It's evident from the pickup that we're doing a lot of offbeat 16ths. Each note on that chromatic run is syncopated. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Also, every chord change is on a 16th note push, either on the ab before the 1, 3E and a 4E and a, or on the ab before the 3, 1E and a 2E and a. The basic pattern that I'm playing is relatively simple. Root, fifth and octave for the three main chords. E flat major, A flat minor, and G minor. There are also some ghost notes which serve two practical purposes. Firstly, they help you descend from the high note down to the low note of the next chord. And secondly, they're great for getting into the groove, helping you catch those 16th note pushes. In the second bar we have more time on the G minor, so we have this simple hammer on from the F to the G. Followed by some more raked ghost notes. And then some more offbeat 16ths on the low G. So those two bars in full, 3 and a 4 and a. The next two bars are similar, but in the last two beats we go to a C in the bass. Okay, that's 16th note syncopation coming into play again here. Before we break down the specifics of this one, let's quickly explore the harmony. So this exercise as a whole is in the key of G minor, although 2 out of the 4 chords used are chromatic. This means that they use notes that are not in the native key. In this instance, the chords I'm initially seeing as A flat minor and C major are chromatic or non-diatonic. The reason why I say I'm initially seeing the chords as such is because I've left them intentionally ambiguous. The chord voicings in the backing track are 3 or 4 note clusters with no obvious root note on a 4-bar loop that doesn't change. Let's go through them one by one. With the magic of editing, you're going to hear the notes as I say them. So, first one, F, G, B flat, D. This could be a G minor 7 with a flat 7 at the bottom of the chord. However, I've decided to mostly play an E flat under this voicing, making it an E flat major 9. So an E flat in the bass is followed by an F, the 9th, on the bottom of the cluster, followed by G, the major 3rd, B flat, the 5th, and D, the major 7th. So even with the first chord, you can begin to see how much influence the bass has over the perception of the harmony. Okay, next up, we've got G flat, C flat, and E flat. And I'm sorry to use C flat in the middle there, but in this case, it's the correct thing to do. I'll get into more detail on that later. So this could be seen as an inverted C flat major triad with the 5th, the G flat at the bottom. But for the most part, I'm putting an A flat underneath it, which is a common way to voice minor 7 chords. This is a simple reharmonization technique, and it's a little less intense than some of the other ones in this exercise. Basically, with any major triad, go down a minor third, 3 frets from the root, 1, 2, 3, and you'll have the relative minor, and all of a sudden your major triad is now part of a richer sounding minor 7 chord. Okay, the third chord, similar to the first, F, A, B flat, and D. Again, this is very ambiguous. Without adding any notes below in the bass, you could see that as a B flat major 7, starting on the 5th, the F. However, with a G in the bass, this makes a really nice G minor 9 voicing. So G is now the root, F is the flat 7, A is the 9th, B flat is the minor 3rd, and D is the 5th. Already, we're seeing how much scope there is to experiment with harmony in this exercise. So, those first 3 voicings form the majority of the sequence, but every 4th bar we see this cluster, G, B, and D. Essentially, this is a G major triad. In the key of G minor, this is yet another chromatic chord, the tonic major in this case. However, instead of playing a G in the root, I've mostly opted for a C. This suggests a C major 9, but without the 3rd. So the C is the root, G is the 5th, B is the major 7th, and D is the 9th. So in this case, we're missing E, the major 3rd, but this is a fairly common voicing of a major 9 chord. To recap, we have this as the established sequence. E flat major 9, A flat minor 7, G minor 9, E flat major 9, A flat minor 7, G minor 9, C major 9 without the 3rd. Okay, so let's hear one of the variations next, starting with that variation A. For the first 3.5 bars, this variation is unchanged from what we've already established. The 4th bar is where things start to change. Let's hear the 3rd and 4th bars again for context. Okay, in that 4th bar, instead of going to a C, I've opted for an E. This makes the resultant chord an E minor 7. E is the root, G is the minor 3rd, B is the 5th, and D is the flat 7. Then in the next 2 bars, things get a little more interesting. Okay, here we have examples of 2 extended suspending chords, bringing the root note of each up a 4th from where we had them before, gives each of the clusters on top a suspended sound. Suspended chords have neither major nor minor tonality, and they're used a lot in jazz fusion. So changing the A flat in the bass to a D flat means we have a resultant D flat 9 suspended. So D flat is the root, G flat is the suspended 4th, C flat is the flat 7, and E flat is the 9. In the next chord, changing the G in a root to a C results in a C13 suspended. So C is the root, F is the suspended 4th, A is the 13, B flat is the flat 7, and D is the 9. This voicing is an inversion of a 13 sus. Typically the 13 goes on the very top, so it would be C, B flat, D, F, A. But this is a very nice voicing, just, you know, a little crunchy with that A and B flat next to each other. In the final 2 bars of this variation, things get extra spicy. This first chord could be thought of in at least 2 ways with an F in the bass. It's either a B flat 6 over the 5th, or it's a G minor 7 over the 7th. I'm opting for the latter in this case. The next one is really out there. I'm finally referring to this one as a B major, seeing as the bass line in this phrase is ascending from F to F sharp, and you tend to sharpen when you're ascending. Not always, but you tend to. So what we end up with here is essentially a B major triad over its 5th, the F sharp. So F sharp is the 5th in the bass, then again in the chord itself. Then B is the root, and then D sharp is the major 3rd. It's a really dark sound in the context, but it makes the resolution to a G minor all the sweeter. So let's hear all the changes in this variation without all the stuff in between. So E flat major 9, A flat minor 7, G minor 9, E flat major 9, A flat minor 7, G minor 9, E minor 7, E flat major 9, D flat 9 suspended, C 13 suspended, G minor 7 over F, B over F sharp, G minor 9, C major 9. Whew. Yeah, so chords are whatever you make of them, basically. Whatever notes you put underneath them can change it so much. There's one more variation. Let's move on to that and hear it first. So once again, the fourth bar is where things start changing from the established harmony. Let's hear that. Oof. So that A natural under the G triad gives us yet another suspended voicing. So if A is the root, G is the flat 7, B is the 9, and D is the suspended fourth. And modifying a plain old major triad in this way to make it an extended suspended chord is kind of addictive, to be honest. All you need to do is find the root note of the major triad, in this case G, and go up a tone in the bass, in this case to A. It instantly makes any major triad sound hip, so try it out. Okay, let's move on to another spicy couple of bars. First of all, we have a nice and simple B flat 6, which is what the previous chord, the A suspended, was leading nicely into. So B flat is the root, F is the fifth, G is the sixth, B flat the root again, D the major third. The next one is possibly the darkest sounding. By putting an E in the bass under the triad, we're effectively forcing it to sound like an E major ninth chord, but without the third. Again, we're referring to the N harmonic equivalents as sharps because of the resulting E major sound. So yeah, you could call it an F flat major, but nah, no, that's just horrendous. So what we were calling a G flat becomes an F sharp, C flat is B, E flat is D sharp. So E is the root, F sharp is the 9, B is the 5th, D sharp is the major 7th. Without the third, this sounds very open and angular to me. It resolves in a fashion by leading us a semitone higher to F. And essentially all that's going on here in this chord is an inverted B flat major 7 over its fifth, the F. So fifth in the bass, the F, and then again in the cluster at the bottom of it, and then A is the major 7th, B flat is the root, D is the major 3rd. Using the same offbeat 16th rhythm that was established at the very beginning, we descend from a high F back to E flat, and then for the last two bars, we're back to the established chord sequence and relative, I say relative, security. Okay, so that just about covers all the changes in this one, but the key takeaway here should be this, right? If the harmony is ambiguous, like it is here, experiment with root notes, and obviously this works in this context, right? Jazz fusion. The bass notes you choose can have a major impact on the emotional push and pull of a chord sequence. And if you can justify them, and be careful, you don't want to get yourself fired from a pop gig doing this too much. Yeah, if you can justify them, give them a movement that makes sense. So it's, got a sort of like melodic, direction to it. Then it should work. Even the combinations that clash the most can be justified if they lead to a very satisfying resolution. When I was putting this all together, I realized the entire sequence could be played with a C pedal in the bass. That means that the second chord is essentially a B over C, which is about as discordant as it gets, but it resolves to a C sus, which isn't a full resolution, but it works well enough. But anyway, that just about covers things for today. This has been a quick dip into the murky waters of harmony and reharmonization. If there's anything that needs clearing up, I did kind of race through it. Leave a comment and I'll be happy to discuss it further, and let me know if you have any of your own approaches to reharmonization too, any tips, tricks and so on. But yeah, if you want to go into more detail, don't forget the PDF and track for this and loads of other lessons can be downloaded from my Patreon. That's patreon.com/Hugh Foster. I've been Hugh Foster on the bass. Let me know how you get on with this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Nice one.